Hey everybody, welcome back to I Know a Guy. If you're new here, my name is Anthony. I'm a business profit advocate. On this show, we interview entrepreneurs, business owners, professionals, and just people doing cool things. For example, today we're meeting with Alex Kuhn, one of the world's leading business leadership experts who has mentored over 1,000 clients across the globe, helping them build businesses that impact thousands and even millions. With his innovative success DNA model, Alex empowers leaders to align their talents with their integrity and achieve their extraordinary success, all while staying true to their purpose. How are you doing today, Alex?
Anthony, I am really glad to be talking to somebody from Iowa, being from there and actually living there for a while. So good to be here.
Yeah, well, where are you at now if you're not in Iowa?
I am in Pittsburgh. So right now we have two things that are really important there. Number one, we're trying to stay warm. And number two, we're hoping the Steelers win the Super Bowl. So pretty much that is what my weekends are all about.
Okay, so half of that sounds similar to here, so you didn't move too terrible far out of, the context. But yeah, now Steelers, nah, take it or leave it here.
No.
So
That's pretty much everybody. I get
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Outside of Pittsburgh.
So obviously you're transplant to Pittsburgh. How long have you been there?
So I grew up, was born and raised just south of Pittsburgh. So I was one of those people that like lived here, actually, funny enough, till I was about 12 or 13 years old. I'm really a highly competitive swimmer growing up. And so at the age of 12, I not only just got the idea that I want to try to make the Olympics, but I basically told my parents at that point, I'm like, I want to do everything I possibly can. So I went to swim camps, I stayed in other people's houses, I went to other schools, and did the whole trail for a long time, to the point where I actually came back after I was done as a college coach. That was like my first job out of college itself. And I was college coaching until I was about 31 years old. And then I said, you know what? Living in California was quite expensive at the time. And I wanted to start a business and do this whole thing we call entrepreneurship, which I don't think anybody knows what it means until you actually get into it there. But I thought it'd be a lot easier and cheaper to live in Pittsburgh. And so that's where I have an amazing wife and two beautiful kids to this day.
That's awesome. Yeah, trying different places, seeing, kind of going back to your roots. I like that. That's a pretty cool story. So, what's fun in Pittsburgh? I've never been there. If somebody was to go there, what food do you like? What activities do you like? What's Pittsburgh's stuff?
Thing. So let's talk about the thing. So everybody in Pittsburgh, there's really two things that people will tell you about Pittsburgh. Okay, so we're talking about food, and the cuisine in Pittsburgh has gotten way better. So I don't mean this to bash any restaurants in Pittsburgh. So if anybody's in Pittsburgh hears this, please don't hate me. But generally speaking, growing up, food options in Pittsburgh when you went to a restaurant, the best food options were the places that basically put as much food as they possibly could on a plate for as little cost. So that's what I always remember growing up. And there's a restaurant in Pittsburgh, it's called Permate's. And so if you come to Pittsburgh, you have to go to a Permate's Brothers, and you got to get a Permate's Brothers sandwiches, which is very simply coleslaw, it's pastrami, it's French fries on a sandwich like this big, and it's just stuffed together. That's pretty much the most well known. Is it the best sandwich? There are definitely a lot of Pittsburgh will say absolutely, but between you and me, it's just a sandwich. It's a good sandwich there. And then the other thing that people know this about Pittsburgh there is that we are the city of three rivers. And Pittsburgh is unlike most cities, it's really hard to get into the city without going through a tunnel because the Allegheny Mountains kind of surround it. And so there's this beautiful picturesque place where you're coming through a tunnel and the city just opens up. But if you actually want to walk around the city, there's actually what we call the incline, which is actually basically a mountainside elevator that will take you from the city all the way to the top to a place called Mount Washington, which has a nice bar and restaurant scene up there. But it's a very unique aspect of Pittsburgh that has beautiful old charm with kind of some new technology to it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'll have to check that out. We don't have that, we don't have that in Iowa. We don't have no mountains. It's the Great Plains. It's flat here. So anywhere that's not flat, I'm always a little bit, all right, we'll see. But anyway, so what can you tell us about what you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, I obviously very grateful to have me on here. Because, I've been in this specific where I've been in entrepreneurship since 2012. And funny enough, the other day I was just kind of, we're going through the end of the year. Everyone's thinking about like what they want to do in the next year, 2025. And I realized I had 37 businesses or business ideas I've started since 2012 that basically went kaput, that didn't go off the ground, that were abject failures. And I've had a few that have been really massively successful. And I'm in the one that I would describe as the closest to the passion that I've always had. And ever since I've been a kid, I've always had two things I've always read. Number one, I've always been very, very fascinated by leadership. For anybody listening to it, you know what I'm talking about. Just not just the concept of leaders, but seeing leaders in different industries, in sports, in different fields. It's unique how there are just some core aspects you learn. But one of the things I've noticed is that when we think of entrepreneurship, we think of people that are very quick to the idea stage. They're very quick to pounce on opportunities. Bitcoin, they're jumping to it. But leaders at their core are very motivated, very different, right? They're very people first oriented. They're very much about putting something out there that not is just going to be a great product or program or service for the client, but it has to feel right. It has to do good, right? There is always this little hesitation I find with leaders. And so, one of the things I've noticed over the years as I've been in entrepreneurship is that there's a very different person that is just a natural leader. Maybe they were an executive in a company, or they typically were always thinking people first. That when they go and just build a business, they don't think marketing, sales, product, systems, operations, right? Those are kind of just the stuff. They think about alignment. They think about being intuitive. They think about making a difference. They think about all the kind of people oriented side of how to grow a business. And so that's what I kind of focused on really working with those people that they've always been just natural leaders, they've been born to lead. And those are the people that I help them build actually a very unique business model. And more importantly, a brand model to help them actually scale to 6, 7 figures. But more importantly, have the freedom to truly grow into who they want to be. Because at the end of the day, every leader I know I've worked with has said this is that, listen, I want to build a great business, a great brand, but it's really about an evolution of myself, of who I want to be involved in. And so I've been grateful that we have hundreds of members in our Born Lead program. You know, we have a huge following on Instagram. I'm grateful to speak with so many people that want to kind of dive deeper into a leadership concept that feels right to them and a business model that ultimately will help them get to where they want to be.
Awesome. Yeah, I really like that. And one of the things that I was reading about when, looking at, your what you've done and where you came from, and what really stood out to me is not only are you helping people, be better leaders, but many entrepreneurs struggle with integrity versus ambition, and
Mhm.
you're able to advise them to stay true to their value while pursuing growth. So how do you coach them to do that? Because that's super important.
I think the biggest piece to that thing is understand you got to start from the inside. There's no business I found when I work with a natural leader that it doesn't feel good, it doesn't align, they don't do the inside work and they don't do the consistent work. Where I think a lot of times that fails is that a lot of times we hear this quote unquote this inside out approach. We do the work on the inside, we work on the mindset, we work on the message, we work on the vision, we work on all these different pieces. But then it's like, okay, got it. Now we're motivated. Now let's build a business. It's almost kind of like this thing where it's like, well, they're separated. Like, hey, this is your inside work, feel good. But then let's go ahead and just build the strategies and the concepts like we always done. It doesn't work that way. And that's one of the reasons why so many leaders who I think have great thoughts, they're more motivated than ever. Like when I talk to a leader, if anybody's listening to this, I mean, you're that natural leader. There's moments where like you're not growing, you're stuck, you're overwhelmed, and you think you have a motivation problem. Like when I tell that leader, it's like, no. You have a coherency problem. You have an alignment problem. You have a place where what you're feeling on the inside is not matching what you're actually projecting on the outside. And it's one of the reasons why, for many leaders, I say instead of us trying to build the business first, let's actually focus on building a brand that actually works with people and ultimately profits that way. I find two things happen with people like that. Number one, they get to actually grow and share that message with their audience as they move forward. And the second thing is they get to do what leaders do best is they get to listen to the people that are coming to our world and ultimately adapt to what they should be offering to them. So that's why I talk to most leaders like, don't build a business, build a brand, and it allows you to actually resonate, match, and ultimately adjust to what your community is asking of you.
Yeah, I really like that. And that's kind of come up with a couple of the interviews I've done lately is, being true to who you are and letting people know it. Because, we all know, like, trust, but if they don't know you, how are they going to like and trust you? So
Mhm.
understanding that part's important. And I like that. You've mentored over 1,000 clients across the globe. Obviously, a lot of them are doing great things. You've had to have like things that you enjoyed with each one individually, but overall, what's your favorite thing about what you're doing?
I've been in a lot of companies, and let me start with my least favorite thing. My least favorite thing is when I'm not around the right people. I found that about myself. I found very much early on, especially in the entrepreneurship stage, that I struggle with just simply finding ways to make money. No, me wrong. I've done very well in my life, and I'm very grateful for what I have. And anyway, everybody leader I talk to is like, listen, like you have to have your need to be working to a place of financial freedom. I believe that in every core piece because ultimately, I think the best work that most of my clients are going to do is not the brand they're building, but what the brand allows them to do for others. And it's kind of the same for me. So, I want everyone to work for that. But the thing that I found that really was burning me out before 2020 was I was basically saying yes to everything because I thought that's what you were supposed to do in business. You were supposed to basically say yes to opportunities. Oh my gosh, you can make money here. Let's go do that. And while it was successful in some ways, it also broke me in a lot of ways. What I found was is that no matter how much money I made, if I didn't feel good about the people I was partnering with, about the clients I was working with, and ultimately what we were actually positioning and putting out into the planet, I didn't sleep. It broke me to the point where, as some of the stories I've told is that one time, like my biggest quote unquote success was also the thing that basically broke me mentally. It broke me emotionally. It really put me in a place where I had to take a year off to really kind of regroup, to heal mentally, to kind of get myself back on track, to simply say, well, do I want to do this again? Because maybe that's the way you have to. Maybe you have to go to dark places and places you don't want to be to actually hit this. And so I kind of said, you know what? This company Born Elite is going to be my one shot. I'm going to just literally do it the way I think you're supposed to do it and be damned to what everybody else says. Doesn't mean it hasn't had its up and downs, but it's proven time and again for my clients and honestly for myself is that you can do it right and feel good about the whole process. It means that you're going to do things very differently than, quite frankly, what most business coaches or business advisors or almost every investor I ever met says you have to do in business. And so that's what I'm trying to remind everybody is that just because we've been told that this is the traditional way to build a business doesn't make it the only way, that there are multiple ways of doing it. And for leaders, what I hope it opens them up is to understand this is that you're allowed to be true to who you are, what you want, who you want to be. And there is a strategy, there is a model, there is a framework that can work for you. It doesn't have to be what everyone says you have to do.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. There's a lot of nuance in everybody's, what they're facing. But, on the flip side of that, there's also a lot of things that entrepreneurs are facing that everybody faces, regardless of industry. You're going to
Mhm.
have these challenges come. You're going to have to learn and overcome these things. So you've been doing this for years. You said, what was it, 32 businesses since
Yeah.
2012?
Yeah.
Somebody trying to get into the entrepreneur world, they're going to face challenges, and a lot of those are going to be similar. What's the number one challenge that you see most people face when they're just trying to get started or just trying to become an entrepreneur?
Yeah, the first challenge is that you should not be trying to build a business the first time you start a business. And that's a weird thing to say, but what happens is that there's a very different concept to actually being a highly paid skill, a highly paid product, a highly paid program. That's the first thing you have to do. Because what you're going to teach and when it comes to growth is there's really three things, right? Number one, can you create a brand? Can you create a position? Can you create a marketing message there that simply is going to resonate with both your outbound and your inbound marketing strategies? Can you create a product or program and create a price point and offer that is actually going to get people to buy it? And can you third and foremost enroll people through it? That is an incredibly hard enough skill. And any seasoned business person will tell you, well, you need way more than that to build a business. And the answer is you 100% do. There is so much said about teams and operations and scalability and leveraging and systems and ops and SOPs and all those types of things that for somebody starting out, like that is way more than you need to try to tackle on. Every core business has a top line, and that is sales. So you have to understand whatever business you're starting, you don't need to be the best business person, but you do need to know how to grow, make a product, make a sale, enroll people. Those are the things that are going to matter for you when you start a business there. And quite frankly, for a lot of people I work with, what they'll discover is that, wow, it's actually much more enjoyable to build a high six-figure to even eight-figure business that isn't quote unquote a real business to some people because you have to work less, you have to manage less, and ultimately you get to kind of create your schedule. So what I tell people is that don't build a business first, just build a growth engine and get good on those specific skills first.
That's fantastic advice, and I think a lot of us need to hear it because we're going to learn it eventually. We might as well just skip the line and figure that out right away. So,
Yeah.
you've helped over 1,000 clients globally. What's the commonality between all of them that if somebody has this issue, they need to talk to you. You're going to be able to help them.
Yeah, there's one, but it comes in different stages. So when I start with talking to somebody that's very startup, newer entrepreneur, kind of below the kind of like initial like startup phase, what's interesting is that a lot of them talk about mindset. I have a mindset problem. I have an emotional problem. And funny enough, I think actually that gets a lot of publicity too early in their careers. Now, if they're just not doing the work and there's trauma, this is not about me being a psychologist by any stretch of the imagination. This is me simply saying that a lot of times you don't have a mindset, you're just doing the wrong things. They're just simply things you have to be doing to grow a business. And if you're not doing those things, if you're not executing those things, like no matter what you do from a mindset perspective, is not going to get you to the next level. Okay. So that's usually the startup. The next phase is that person that's between the growth and scalability phase. And this is the person that's very simply, they've got a team, they've got people that are calling, they got a client, they got a good business there, but they are literally the middleman in the business. They are not a CEO. They are literally a stretched out, arms, every single person, every single team member. They're doing that right. And what I tell them is that they have a mindset problem, they have a doing problem, meaning they've been learning how to be a doer of everything in the business. And at some point, that's good, but you have to learn how to be a leader of the business. And that's where obviously a lot of our clients kind of come in. It's like, hey, I'm making money. I just don't know how to lead a business now. You have to understand how to delegate. You have to understand how to put things on other people. You have to understand how you can actually run a business that has way many mistakes. And I think this is the biggest commonality with most entrepreneurs. They think a business should be perfect. You can't run a perfect business. You got to be able to run a C plus B minus level business and make really good money to do it, because you can't expect your team members to be perfect every single day of every single week of every single month of every single year. You're going to kill yourself. And quite frankly, you're going to have a lot of turnover, which ultimately is going to hurt the business growth. That's the middle phase. And then, of course, when you have the entrepreneurs that they're making great money, they've scaled it, they're not really doing anything. That usually is when the mindset challenges come in. And the mindset challenges is, what is my purpose in life? What should I do next? Why am I here? For those of you that might do this, if you're at that stage, like you know what I'm talking about. You've made great money, you've done great things, but you realize is that your value and your excitement wasn't from just the money, it was from the purpose, the showing up. Where am I going? What am I working towards? What's my why? And it's very scary when, quite frankly, your company doesn't need you anymore. That's the mindset person I usually focus on.
Okay. Awesome. So as an entrepreneur, obviously all of us learn that we can't handle everything. We have to work with people, we have to collaborate, we have to find power partners. Who do you tend to synergize best with? Who can help your clients or vice versa in different areas that you might be able to network with?
There's four questions I typically ask when I'm talking about working with somebody. It doesn't matter if it's a client, a partner, it does not a team member. It doesn't matter. Okay. So they're kind of very four simple questions, but I do find that if you start asking them, you'll start to realize, wow, it kind of gives you some clarity to make decisions on people and where they fit into your world. So the first question, and these are not in any particular order, by the way. So please know that you can change the order or priority. But the first question is that very simply, are you guys going to where you both want to be from a growth perspective, from a financial perspective, from a business perspective? If one person's saying like, hey, I want to build the biggest empire in the world, and the other person's like, I want to build a lifestyle business, you're probably not going to match. You both are trying to go at very different directions there. So I think the first thing is that, are you guys both on the same financial path to where you both want to be there when it comes to partnership? The second, as silly as it sounds, is, do you actually have the same values as the person you're working with? There's no such thing, and I think everybody though that's married, there's no such thing as the perfect person that's going to ultimately have the same exact values, the same exact situations. But the values that are important to you should be important to the other person. I find that a lot of times there's really three things that more often than not works well when you are deciding to work with somebody: honesty, integrity, and courage. If they don't possess those things, chances are there's not going to be a good fit for either one of you. The third is what I call kind of the love of the learn. Do you actually, because when you're in a partnership, you got to learn a lot about that person. You got to learn a lot about what they're doing. So you better love learning what they actually do and the person themselves there. And if you can't find that you like doing that, or quite simply, it feels like it's a lot of friction, it's probably not going to work because no willpower is going to get you beyond basically doing stuff you can't stand all the time. And then the fourth, and to me, this is very intuitive, but it's ease, meaning it's easy to show up and chat. It's easier to collaborate. We all know this. There are just some people that you can actually go hang out with and you can talk for 4 or 5 hours without stopping, and it just seems like it naturally happens. And then there's people you are struggling to figure out what the next question is after your 5 minutes. So is it just simply intuitively feel easy for you? And at the end of the day, I think that's how you start to find good partners. And ultimately, at the end of the day, here's my biggest advice. When you feel like the partnership isn't benefiting you or the other person and you don't see it repairing, it's better to end it on good terms than it is to try to salvage it.
Absolutely. No, that's fantastic. I'm gonna have to go back and write all those down myself. Just make sure I'm taking notes. So, as entrepreneurs are out there, we're all kind of trying to do similar things as far as, we want to get in business, we want to stay in business, we want to make money. How does somebody build $1 million personal brand?
Easy, right? No, joking aside, it's not easy. Let me actually start with something that I think people don't talk about when it comes to personal brand. And that is this, is that you've got to have this beautiful combination of empathy and tough skin. I can show you all the posts that hate on me, all the people that bash me, all the things that would, I mean, literally would make your mom cry if you read it. It happens every single day. That's where the tough skin has to come in. And then on the other side, you have to have this empathy where you can be vulnerable, where you can be open, where you can share. Because if you become a cynical person, it's very difficult to connect with a community and build a community because at the end of the day, the personal brand power is simply in the magic of you liking the people you want to have in your world and truly being appreciative of them, even as you get more and more hate as you grow. So, everyone is trying to build a personal brand. That is literally the invisible secret to building a multi-million dollar personal brand. At the core, there are three things you have to do. You have to do. And by the way, I have something for free if anybody wants it. We have a whole system that we do. But there are three things that I tell everybody you have to do. Number one, you have to be not just a brand, you have to be a specialist. Whether you're talking about the best hotels in Europe or you're talking about how to change the diapers on the baby, you have to show that you love the work that you do. Every one of us that watches something on TV, I always like to talk about Gordon Ramsay. It's obvious the guy at some level, and maybe he's faking it, but he loves cooking. He loves food. He loves making sure chefs, whether you like him or not, it doesn't matter. His passion shows up. So you got to find something that you truly are passionate about and talk about it every single day. The second thing is that you have to have something that makes you money. If it's sponsorships, great. Go as hardcore in sponsorships as possible. But for most people, that's not going to get you to seven figures. You have to have your own service. You have to have your own offer. It's coaching, consulting, masterminds, whatever product, whatever it is. Find something that is one thing you want to build into the best product, service, or program you can and go all in. And then last, but certainly not least, be an experience, not a marketer. Give people a chance to experience you before they buy. I don't care if it's a webinar style. I don't care if it's coming to a live retreat. I don't care if it's simply on your social media page. People need to experience what they do before they ultimately invest. And when you do that, what happens is that people actually will be talking about you to their friends before they even make a purchase. That to me is how you build a $1 million brand, if not bigger. And ultimately, it does give you that chance to do other things that you want to do in your life.
Awesome. Yeah, I like that as well. Again, I'm going back with a notepad. So one thing that a lot of us face is when we're getting started. There's a lot of fear to it. A lot of people, the doubters, the oh, you shouldn't do that. You have a nice corporate job. So how does somebody transition from the corporate world to, let's say, the coaching world?
When you're in the corporate job, you have some incredible skill sets. A lot of times, people that go from the corporate into the entrepreneurship have two reasons they do it. Number one, they hate their boss, they hate the company, they hate the corporate. So they have this motivation to go get some freedom. The second is that you see a better way of doing something. You see a better idea and you want to start implementing it on your own because your company doesn't buy into it. So whatever your motivation is, you have to understand that's probably what business you should be building first. If you truly believe that there's a better product and a better way of doing it, great. Go make sure you're building that business, okay? Because a lot of times people start to think of like, oh, the millions things to do, okay? You have to really get very clear very quickly. If you don't, it's going to feel like the worst thing ever because you're going to go home, you're going to have your business, you're going to tell everybody, announce it. People are going to say that's so exciting, and you're just going to sit there and not know what to do. So if that's you, build a product, keep working on the product, keep implementing the product. If that's not you and you just hate your boss or you just hate your company and you're not wanting to do it, one of the things I advise you to do is start it as a side hustle. Do not leave your company because if you do leave your company there without the means and all the types of things, what you'll realize is that it's actually worse to try to build a company when you have all the time in the world. It's actually a lot easier when you have finite time. So my advice for everybody there that's trying to go into this space from an executive into their own world is very much start to get very clear on what you want to specialize in and what that one thing you want to sell, and then ultimately go deep into it for at least 1 year and keep going to it even when it's tough.
Awesome. Yeah, I like that. Is there anything that I failed to ask or missed that you wanted to mention?
I think for everybody here that's listening to this, and obviously I want to say I appreciate anybody that's listening to this, and Anthony, I want to thank you for the time. It's just a message that's on my heart lately. It's something I've been posting about that with ChatGPT and AI and everything that's been popping up and social media and the virality of stuff. I hope everybody takes a moment in their business at some point and just simply connects with their community, with their audience. So simply a cold call, simply a personal message. If you follow me on Instagram, what you'll notice is that, yeah, even though I may have a lot of people that are in my world, I tend to reach out to 80 to 90% of the people in my world. And the reason why I do that is because at the end of the day, I hear things that I would have never heard if I didn't personally connect with it. Sure, I can automate the business to the highest of scales, but I think you lose touch. And I think as we kind of move into this next stage of business and existence in this world, I think it's important to keep closer and closer connection to the people that you want to serve. So keep that in mind as you guys are all building your business.
I couldn't agree more. And it's been a common theme with a lot of the folks I've had conversations with where um, we're kind of going back to more of the traditional feel where you're actually building connections. It's not about, going really fast, really far, really fast. It's about, actually building genuine connections. And a lot of that, with the advent of the internet was I could talk to a million people tomorrow, I'm gonna go do that. And then that was all you did. And after COVID, it's kind of shifted where we're now more comfortable on this kind of this medium. And we're all wanting to find people that we actually connect with. We're trying to make genuine connections, and I like that because it's how humans are supposed to talk to one another, how we're supposed to connect. Everybody's not just a number. That's an actual person. Let me get to know them. Let me see how and if I can help them, and if not, how I might be able to help them otherwise. So there's definitely a push for that, and I'm all here for it because that's why I'm in business. So awesome. So if people want to connect with you, what's the best way that they reach you?
Yeah. So obviously, if you actually want a message from me, you can go on Instagram and just type Alex Kuhn, Kuhn. I'm the first person that comes up on Instagram, so easiest way to do it. But if you really are somebody who is in the coaching space, leadership space, you've been thinking about kind of getting into this entrepreneurship world, and you're really truly, let me just say it this way: you have to buy into building a brand, whether it's a personal brand or just a brand in general. Ultimately, at the end of the day, you might hear this too much, but I'm going to repeat it because it's been the biggest mistake I probably made in the first 10 years of my business. You don't build a business, you build a brand. And ultimately, the brand has more lifetime sustainability than any business built. So that's why I talk about building a personal brand. Because as long as you like yourself, as long as you want to keep growing yourself, there's always ways to kind of adapt the business side to the brand of who you are. So if you go to bornleaders.com/27 steps, I literally wrote basically the entire way I work with any personal brand. So yes, if you want to make millions or you just simply want a great personal brand that gives you opportunities, it literally is not one of these like two-page guides that gives you highlights. It's literally something I actually asked all of my best clients if this is what I did with them. And they said, yep, it is, or they asked me to go back and make changes. So it's truly a document. It's about 21 pages. It's a Google Doc. It's literally hand-free. I update it there to make sure I'm always keeping it to update to the best of my ability. So again, bornleaders.com/27 steps. I hope it helps serve you and your brand, whether you ever work with me or not.
Perfect. Absolutely reach out to Alex. I can't stress that enough. He's exactly the same that you're seeing here as he is, in a one-on-one. Have a meeting with him, go through go through everything that he has out there. You're just accidentally going to be better at your business afterwards. So, if you're a little bit more shy and you prefer an introduction, feel free, reach out to me. I'm more than happy to make those three-way connections for those that prefer it that way. I'll have all of his links and everything in the description so we don't have to hunt for it. And other than that, if anybody else would like to be interviewed, feel free to reach out to me. I'll have my link tree and everything in the description as well. But Alex, I really appreciate you coming on, taking the time to kind of pour into all of us. Like I said, I'm going to have to go back myself and make sure that I listen again and take some notes because there's a lot in there that I missed, and I'm going to have to go back and regather it all. So I really appreciate you coming on. Let's all get out there and try and meet some more people. All right,
Yeah, Anthony, appreciate you.
it's my pleasure.